Yeah, okay, so we're gonna do a tribe to alt. So, first thing is, the first tribe that formed was Latiguria. And, yeah, they were in, like, the Italian peninsula. But that was basically it. Then it was the Normans. And some Celtic peoples. Spread out. There were Turks. And I mean, the Turks were, like, everywhere. But, like, these paintings are, like, tribes right now. Then there was Egypt. And Egypt is big. Then Carthage, and finally barbaric tribes. These are all the ones that would appear right now in the in like 1 million years ago. But anyway, each tribe would expand their territory depending on size equals depending on size they grow. Now, nations in Africa would usually stay around the coast. They only go deeper in unless there's like water supplies and stuff. But anyway, so the First Nation would pop up around in this game would pop up around 9000 BCE, and that would be Egypt. So Egypt is now a nation. And first thing that they would do is that they would first take all of Egypt because they would just try to expand, try and see if there's any resources. And they'll meet up with Carthage, and they decided to trade. So now Carthage is also a nation now. Since they can't expand over by here, they would expand down by here. And all they would see is Sahara, so they would stop. Except for around here, which they'll make the areas that they got around here a little bit thicker, as well as the territories there. Now back to Latiguria, they would expand and capture Rome, and they would take the Rome area. And that's pretty much what they would take. The Normans would basically just dominate in France. But the Normans right now are following rivers. There's fresh water. And there's a river there. Now these barbaric tribes are basically just expanding like a mess. Now here, around here is the introduction of the Slavs. Now the Turks will start growing. They will also try and they are also the ones who would make the first long road and the first boat that was able to cross this sea here. Around this time, the Greeks appear, and so does the Spartans. Now, the Greeks have different intentions as they want to expand rapidly. While the Spartans also want to do that, but they also want to conquer other things. So instantly, they sail to all these islands, and they capture a good amount, and they start their first conquest on Greece, which goes very well. Athens is captured. But back to Latiguria, they just continue along the coast. Eventually until they reach the Adriatic Sea, and then they follow that too. Before closing on the rest. At that time, there is a new nation that rebelled from them, and it's called Rome. But they're not going to get as big, so. But anyway, Egypt continues their way following the Nile River, which the Nile River is absolutely massive. So they continue following it until they find a lush paradise. And they continue down by here. Now the alt part is for the future. Well, I'm trying to. I don't know what I'm doing really. It's mainly for like the future and stuff. But anyway, Egypt is now absolutely massive. And how about we just skip a couple of years? Well, maybe until like 1444, because like they don't have anything earlier than that. So now Egypt has collapsed. No one, basically, only a few nations are down here now. All this land here that they've captured is lost. Yeah. And Europe is a mess. First thing is, France pushes out the Brits. As well as the Burgundians. Yeah, the French push out a ton. And they even close in on, forgot the name, sorry. Now after skipping many more years, 1618, Europe is still pretty much a mess. Just look at France. Like, ugh. That's just Yeah, this is probably what they would look like in the next century. Well, no. Have oh no, oh no, I was completely wrong. But anyway, we know what happens here. 1836. You know what? I'm gonna do a change to this, as it's an alternate thing. Should I do it in the modern day? Yeah, I think we should do it. No. No, 1914. Yeah, we all know what happened. Same in 1936. 1956. A Soviet pro. Now, this is the start of the thing that's gonna happen in the modern era. A Soviet lab in Ukraine. Well, not in Ukraine. A Soviet lab hidden in Antarctica is working on like a medicine or some sort. Can't really see Antarctica. So, wait. Yes, these are islands of Antarctica. And they're colored in black, aren't they? Yeah, I can color them. Anyway, but something happens and the Soviets don't know why, but it happened in 1991 and that's when the Soviet Union collapsed. So it was forgotten until 2021. Now, Russia, meanwhile, during the Russia-Ukraine war, um, said, well, what is this thing about over there? So let's go check it out. So they do, and they bring it back to Moscow in another lab, and they discovered that everything that happened there was that there was this drug that made people rage. Well, there was this thing that made people rage, and the whole lab was infected, and communication was cut off to stop anyone from going there. Hopefully, so they're like, okay, yeah, we better handle this carefully. So they deport it all the way to China. Well, they don't. It goes along here near the border. It goes off course straight down. It goes on a ship because it's hijacked by pirates now. And up into the Middle East is where it starts. So, Saudi Arabia, the virus spreads. At first, it made people rage at first, and like get super angry at first. But eventually, after like a couple of hours, then they would turn into full form, which would be a zombie. And instantly, Saudi Arabia is gone, and the rest of the nations surrounding are just waiting for their impending doom. Now, many of the nations already have fallen, and Egypt has been fortifying their borders now and stopping anyone from crossing the Red Sea or anyone coming into their borders. They've locked their borders. Everyone's starting to do that around the virus. Palestine is infected and destroyed, and so is Israel. Lebanon, yeah, same fate. Then Iraq and Syria try holding for as long as they can, but the virus spreads extremely quickly. Turkey closes their borders and starts building a wall around the capital. yet Turkey is still infected. Now, Russia takes advantage of this and invades Georgia, and just so they can fortify the wall, like fortify the mountains and stuff, because yeah, these nations are not that big. Right. The news hasn't spread to them yet. So yeah, Russia instantly invades them, takes them. Russia gives this stuff back to Ukraine, and Belarus is annexed. Russia then spends a ton of it on upgrading their equipment and stuff. Change. And also another thing that happened is Putin is overthrown. Overthrown. Like he's over. Like no longer in power anymore. So it's someone else. Now instantly Turkey is falling with rage, and Russia has already built a wall down by here. Now then Istanbul falls, and so does their leader. So another leader arises in. No, that's not instant. It was Ankara. Why am I stupid? So another leader rises, and this time it's in Istanbul. And he orders to start fortifying Istanbul. And now all that's left is Turkey is in the Balkans. Yeah, so all the Middle East is basically done. Now focusing the attention to these guys. Yeah. Yeah, they're dead. They're just cooked. Yeah, and then yeah, they're cooked. So Russia also starts invading more nations. And when I'm gonna end up bored, I'm gonna play something